Hello, welcome to the session today from Maximizer Software on use of CRM for business advisors and business coaches. My name is Mike Richardson. I'm the Managing Director for Maximizer Software in the EMEA region. And during the session, we're going to spend a bit of time, just briefly I'll introduce you to who Maximizer are and what we do. I'm then going to spend a bit of time to just run through very briefly to give you an understanding of how coaches and business advisors typically use CRM solutions. Then we'll move straight on into a product demonstration, and the product I have today is actually a tailored version of Maximizer. I'm going to be using a specifically customized database that's set up with a little bit of terminology and a few fields that relate specifically to the coaching and business advisor industry. Once we've covered that demonstration of the product, I'm going to briefly go through a few of the differentiators of Maximizer, say compared to some of the other solutions out there. As I say, session today will take roughly 30 to 40 minutes. So Maximizer Software are a global software vendor. Our headquarters are actually in Vancouver in Canada, and I'm actually speaking to you from our Bracknell office, which is just outside London in the UK. In terms of the other locations, we do quite a lot of business in South Africa, and we have a virtual office there, and we also do business in Australia and New Zealand. Pretty much the majority of other areas around the globe are covered by our reseller channel, and we deal in all sorts of countries around the globe. So in terms of how coaches and advisors can use a CRM product, now marketing and lead generation is one specific area, generating new leads for advisory services, for example, marketing to existing clients that you may have worked with in the past, if you have some new offering or some new service that you plan to offer to that existing client base. Once you've generated leads, obviously you need a degree of qualification to see whether those leads are actually proper deals and you're actually likely to get some business out of them, so we can control that process pretty well through use of CRM. Moving on, having qualified those leads, we can then actually move through the deal process in terms of the opportunity management, actually managing the process of selling to a specific client and the various steps that you may want to go through. A key area for advisors across all disciplines really is profiling your client and the idea of knowing your customer. So capturing information about the client, specific things about the company, about the various contacts at the client, what sort of industry they're in, what sectors, who are the customers, and so on. All that good stuff we can track within the CRM solution. I know that a lot of advisors initially may have an introductory meeting where they schedule a meeting to go and see the client and actually discover what sort of services they may be able to offer. Now, it may be information, for example, around a marketing plan, business plan, or maybe the owner of the business is looking for some export advice, maybe some human resource advice, and so on. And lots of our Maximizer clients are involved in those sort of businesses and use our product to track those sort of interactions. And I'm going to show you today how that can be done. So a key area as well as selling to the client is tracking whether something's actually been delivered. In terms of what you sell, as an advisor, now you may sell specific services that relate to your capabilities, but I know in some cases advisors will actually sell services where they get one of their colleagues or they get a specialist involved. And tracking that those particular specialist services has been delivered, or reports being delivered, or some sort of analysis has taken place as a deliverable item is key to the way that these sort of businesses typically operate. You need to be able to track the progress of a client against a sort of action plan that you may have created. You may have a plan with your client for the next 6 to 12 months, for example, and that will be mapped out in what we would term an action plan with a number of deliverables and various activities that take place during a given timescale. You want to be able to store any supporting information you provide to the client, any background reports you may have written, for example if you conduct some sort of audit, maybe around health and safety or human resource or whatever it is. You may want to store that supporting information against the client record in your CRM database. And also track any form of communication you've had with the client, any telephone calls, emails, letters and so on. Now, essential to keep all that nowadays in one place, especially if you're working in a small team. You've got to be able to track all that information and keep it so that if, say, there are 3 advisors working together, you've got all that information in a central location where everyone can find it. One of the key areas as well where a lot of advisors struggle, because typically in a busy small business it's difficult to keep track of all the work that you've undertaken, make sure that you've quoted for it correctly, make sure that you've actually billed and invoiced it, and that you can report on that information to look at where you're making a profit, maybe where you're losing money, and so on. Moving forward, once you start to populate your database and you get more and more information about your clients, a CRM database is a really excellent way of developing the idea of an ideal customer profile, where you can target and look for future business that are along the lines of where you've been successful in the past. And a key element of that is being able to segment data in the CRM database and actually track opportunities for cross-selling and selling additional products and services. So typically they're the areas where CRM is used. In terms of the Maximizer product, we have some specific areas. We have management and reporting capabilities in the forms of dashboards, Excel reporting, some standard reports that you can run that will track activities, any sort of leads, qualifications, appointments, your sales forecasting and so on. We can also set up alerts that will trigger if various activities need to be undertaken where you've set a deadline, for example. So management and reporting, pretty important part of any sort of management solution that you may be using. Marketing, again, pretty key for generating new leads and new business if you're trying to grow your consultancy or your business advisory services and so on. Marketing through the internet, email marketing, you might be running exhibitions, events, tracking customer referrals, even running small telemarketing campaigns. CRM can help across all these aspects of your marketing automation. In terms of lead handling, now once you've generated these leads, as I mentioned before, you may want to go through some sort of formal qualification process where you do a bit of fact finding and so on, bit of verification to make sure that you can actually provide the various services that someone may be interested in, moving through to a stage where you're actually shortlisted and having to provide a quotation in order to get the business, and then going through the sign-off process, handling any objections, and finally getting the order. All these sort of activities that I've put here can all be tracked and automated through the use of customer relationship management. Once you've actually sold the deal, you've got things to deliver. So in terms of managing the deliverables, what we've done with the Maximizer solution, for example, is we actually use the customer service module that's in the product, rebadged or relabeled, to track deliverables that an advisor may undertake. Now, any sort of project discussions, action plans you have, as I mentioned, over a period of time, any sort of follow-up that you need to undertake, any surveys, reporting, providing information back to the client, maybe through some sort of self-service functionality, and of course tracking feedback on how your services are being perceived and what sort of results you're getting. Again, all that sort of thing can be tracked through an effective CRM solution. In some elements, you may want to integrate some of your accounting functions with the customer relationship management system. Now, maybe some elements of quoting and invoicing, for example, that you want to integrate with the CRM. You may want to synchronize customers from the CRM solution into the billing or financial control system, account system, and so on. Again, CRM solutions can typically help with that and help with the reporting side of things from a finance point of view. So what I'll do now is quickly switch over to the physical product. As I mentioned earlier, we've created a specific database configuration for business advisors and coaches. I'm going to log in as a business advisor consultant called Adrian Visor. So if you see that name around the solution, that's where it's come from. So I've logged in as Adrian. You'll see straight away, if you've ever seen Maximizer in the past, that actually this may not look as familiar as what you've been used to in the past. Some significant changes in our more recent products, which essentially mean that typically now we will do a web type implementation. You'll notice that I'm actually running this from a pretty standard, in fact I think even on this demo machine it might be an old version of Internet Explorer, but it's just running a standard browser, for example. You'll notice quickly going down this toolbar at the side, I have some dashboards. I have the list of my clients and prospects. I have the ability to run marketing campaigns, ability to run sales opportunities if I have a more complex sales cycle. You'll notice here that I've got something called Advisor Deliverables, which is my relabeled customer service module, which I'll run through with you. We can also track your calendar, any tasks through the hot list, and the company library is used as a repository for holding any sort of useful information that you may want to share across your business, or keep various documents and templates in a central location. You'll also notice at the top we've got a little quick access thing here that also pops up. I've just put a few standard searches in here that just make it quicker to find information. So for example, the little tick box here will give me a list of all my active customers. The little picture here with two people gives me a list of all the active contacts. I can see my active advisory sessions here. I can look for any other advisors or coaches that I may use for referrals, for example, through this little bubble here. I've also got a search here which I'll show you later on, which is for profiling various types of companies. In fact, in this case I've put a search together to identify high technology IT companies, for example. So we'll start off with our list of companies. I'll just make the screen a little bit wider by getting rid of my alarm panel. You notice over on the right hand side I've got any alarms for things that I haven't completed yet, or things that are coming up in the future. I'll just move that out of the way at the moment to give us a bit more width on the screen. If I want even more width, I can actually reduce the icons on the left hand side as well. So that's given me a full screen width. I'm on quite a narrow screen here. On my desk upstairs I actually have quite a big screen. It allows you to have a much wider view and more data on the screen at the same time. Now what you'll notice here is at the top of the screen I have some various menus, but below that I have this top window with a list of companies in it. This has got 5 example companies, tells me The type field here tells me that it's a company. I've then got the company name, I've got the sector that they work in, I've then got their phone number, email address, city, so on and so on. So let me get rid of these alarms for a bit longer. I only gave it 5 minutes and it came back up. So you'll notice we've got a series of columns here with different data in it. Now, one of the key things with the Maximizer solution is that these fields can be changed. This view at the top is called a column view. And you notice if I go to the view menu here, I've got something called column setup. And what this allows me to do is to create different views of the data in that top window. And if I go into there, you'll see that I can actually configure this. I won't go into too much detail with this, but basically we can add more fields, we can move these around. If, for example, I would like to move the website up to after the email address before the city and town, I can do that. If I want to move the type of company up the screen, I can do that. If I say OK and then use now, you'll notice it's moved those fields around. So I now have the type of company here, I have the website here, whereas before they were further across the screen. One of the key things with this column view as well is you can sort by any of these columns. At the moment it's sorted by company, but let's say, for example, I want to sort it by the industry or sector. I can do that. If I want to sort by the type of company, I can do that, and so on. Now, very, very flexible, and you see it's changing instantaneously. Now, one of the key things with the way that Maximizer works, pretty much compared to most of the CRM solutions, is this idea of having a split screen with a top window and a bottom window. Now, on the face of it, that might seem a more difficult approach to handling the data. If you've seen some of our competitors' product, you'd typically be looking at one company at a time, and all the data for that customer, that one particular customer, would be there in the one screen. The way we work is we allow you to see more than one company at a time in the top window, but as we move down, for example, if I move from this advanced controls record that I'm looking at the moment to the Maximizer software record, you'll see in the bottom part of the screen the information actually follows whichever record you're looking at in the top window. So you've got a very, very quick and effective way of looking at multiple sets of information very, very quickly. And that's the way it works pretty much through all the product. There's no scrolling up and down, there's no pop-ups that you may get in some other solutions you may have seen. Once you start to get data in here, Maximizer will work exactly the same way. You'll see if you get data in some of the other solutions out there, you can end up scrolling up and down, popping up multiple screens and all sorts of stuff. So the way we work is by highlighting the record in the top screen, you then see the information that you're interested in the bottom screen. Now, in the bottom screen, we then have a series of tabs which show the various bits of information about this client. Starting off with the details tab, which is the tab I'm in at the moment, gives me the basic details for this company. The company name, address, email address, all that sort of stuff is down here. I can create a map, I can copy this information, I can print it out, and obviously if I need to I can edit it. That's pretty straightforward stuff, pretty easy to understand. We can also put an image in here, a company logo, or a picture of a contact if we want to as well. The bit on the right hand side of the screen is a bit more flexible, so the little bit here with the company information is fixed, but where we have this thing here called key fields, it's actually very, very flexible. So as a company or an advisor, a coach, you can set up this section to contain whatever information you need it to. Now what I've done here is actually set up a very straightforward list. I've called it my company profile or my KYC, know my customer or know your customer screen. It contains a bit of basic information, things like the company registration number, the VAT number, which sector this particular company or customer is working in, what type of company they are, limited company, PLC, so on, their turnover, and what their profit may be for last year. That's pretty straightforward stuff, and you can add any fields like that you may want to add to the database. On the right hand side, I've added a few more fields. Who's the account manager, who's actually looking after this client if it's a team of advisors and coaches. When was the first date they were contacted? Are they designated as high growth, which may be a yes or no field if you want to flag that. And then some marketing information. Where did we get the originally get the lead for this particular company? Are they a sales lead or a customer? Well, this isn't a sales lead anymore, it's a customer, and originally they came through our website. Again, pretty straightforward stuff. What we can also do here, we can add to this list if we want to, but what you can also do is to create additional lists across the various aspects you might want to track. So for example, here I've got a particular key field, set of fields called HR information, and that's holding things like the number of full-time employees, part-time employees, so on and so on. So this is totally configurable. Any information you want to track, you can add into these various windows here. Now, if you're providing funding, if you're providing IT services, whatever it is, you can track that in that window here. So that's the basic details. Again, straightforward. You don't need an IT guru to do this. You can do it all yourself with our help, and also there's videos in the product show you how to do some of this stuff. So that's the details tab. Moving on swiftly now to the contacts. This gives me a list of all the various contacts for a given company. You'll notice for this particular company, myself is the only contact here. Mike Richardson is the only contact. If we want to look at that information for that contact, we can do. And again, because this is a column view, you can actually change the information that's shown in that view if you want to, in the same way that you can in the top window. Moving on to the next tab we've got here, this is the various deliverables that we're providing to Maximizer software. You'll notice that we've been involved with 3 different projects so far. One of them's completed or resolved, the other 2 are still ongoing or assigned. We can track all the activities associated with this particular client. We can track all the history, which will give us all the telephone calls, emails, any notes we've added. Pretty much everything you've done with this client is tracked in the history. We can also search based on search in the history here. If we want to, just look for email, for example, and that will narrow it down to everything that just has an email. If we go to documents, this will show any documents that we've sent to the client. Now, we may have some emails that we sent about the various coaching sessions and so on, and related entries allow us to relate this particular customer to other customers if there's any form of relationship there. So that's an overview very, very quickly of how the product works from the point of view as clients and prospects. In terms of the campaigns, we have a full marketing module here which allows us to send targeted email marketing campaigns. We can track within those campaigns the number of subscribers, any unique opened emails, unsubscribes, click-throughs, all that sort of stuff. I won't go through this at the moment because I could spend 2 hours on the campaign manager on its own, but you have a built-in marketing campaign module with full tracking. If we go into the opportunity module, we have a full sales module in here, and we can track the progress of deals. We can assign a value to a revenue value to an opportunity. We can run an opportunity through a series of stages that we may want to put in there. We can assign it to different people amongst the team, and so on. We can even put a probability that the deal's closing, do an assessment of a confidence rating, and so on. All the things that you'd expect in a more complex sales process. Moving swiftly on, I mainly want to concentrate now on the advisor deliverables side of things. So this is where we're actually tracking the various activities around the things we're delivering. So as I mentioned, I'm logged in as this guy, Adrian Visor. These are the various activities that I have assigned to me at the moment. The ones in red are overdue, mainly because I created this database a few weeks ago. You'll notice that it works in exactly the same way as the address book. So I have a list, in this case, of deliverables. Each of those deliverables is assigned to a client. We have a category of deliverable, what sort of service are we delivering. A product that we're delivering, is it a coaching session, an introductory meeting, a health check that needs a report, or whatever. We can have a billing status, the amount of time we've spent on the client, a total fee, follow-up deadline, all that sort of stuff. Again, in this view, it's totally configurable. So at the moment I have these fields, and again I can sort by these fields, but if I want to I can add other fields in there instead. Now as we move down this list of deliverables, if I go to this coaching session, for example, with Maximizer software, you'll notice at the bottom, just like in the Clients and Prospects tab we went through before with the names and addresses, instead of names and addresses I'm tracking the deliverable items. And the section at the bottom of the screen now gives me the various details about this particular deliverable. So it gives me a unique number, the amount of time since it was created, who the client is, what sort of services they're looking for, what sort of expertise they need in terms of the categories and so on, a description for the deliverable activity, so a bit about the billing information, and then so all this is fixed on the left hand side, but again when we get to the key fields over here we can actually change this to suit however we want. So in this case I'm tracking some very basic things about where the original lead came from, who's responsible for this particular project, what sort of priority is it, when does an initial follow-up have to have taken place by, and some notes in here. Again, all this is customizable, and if I want to make this a bit wider I just can get rid of that actions list from there. On the right hand side I've put some billing information, so we know that this hasn't been invoiced, so there has been no payment obviously. There's some other fees associated with this particular activity. In this case it's some report writing. So the cost of the billing rate for this client is £120 an hour. We've done 8 hours worth of activity, that's £960. We then have some report writing we've done at £250. If you add the VAT to that, the VAT is £242, which gives us a grand total hopefully of 145,200. So we're tracking that sort of information, pretty rudimentary in terms of the billing it's tracking, but it works for most small advisor firms. What we can also do with that, which is quite interesting, is if we go to the Actions button, we have this capability here to merge to a document. This can be any sort of pre-configured document. I just happen to have put a couple in here as an example. I've got a quotation template here, and I've also got an invoice. So if I open up this particular template, it's just opening up now, you'll see that it's produced a quote for me. Mike Richardson, Maximizer Software, and so on and so forth. It's a coaching session. It gives the cost. So we can add in as many fields as we want. Now, a few bits missing here. I need to update this. So what it would also have in there is the VAT, the cost for the additional things, and it would total all that up in here as well. Pretty straightforward stuff. All it's really doing is merging these various fields we have in the database into a document. Once you've created that document, you can actually save it against the database. So we've actually I've saved a previous quote here in the Documents tab, and you can see that that's saved here. What we also have is again the history related to, in this case, to this particular deliverable rather than to the company as a whole. We can track any contacts associated with it here. We can also track all the various activities that are just associated with this particular deliverable. We've made a phone call, we've had an on-site health check session with a client, and then we've created a report. So we've got those various tasks, and as we complete them we can tick them off the list here. Once we take them off the list, we can add a follow-up if we want to. You probably noticed that come through. Do we want to create a follow-up? And that will then let you create a follow-up task with its own alarms and so on. One of the key things here though in terms of these activities is rather than do these activities one at a time, we can create something called an action plan. An example in here I've created is something called a health check plan, and what this does is actually this health check plan is a series of activities that are associated with doing a health check with the client. So we make a telephone call initially, then we go and visit the client, and then we do a report and send that off to them. And you notice this has got dates associated with that. It's assigned to Adrian Visor. We can actually change this so you can assign different tasks to different people. You can make all these activities dependent on each other, so if one of the activities is late, it'll rejuggle the other activities to suit, and so on. You can have as many of these action plans as you want and make them pretty much as complicated and as long as you want as well. So that's a simple example of that action plan. And now, because I've added a second action plan here, obviously I've got another set of activities as well. So that's pretty straightforward stuff. So we've gone through our clients and prospects. I've shown you briefly how the deliverables work. We've talked about opportunities. We've talked about campaigns. We have full calendar functionality in here in the system that relates, for example, I've got in the calendar here one of the coaching sessions related to Maximizer Software. That's one of the activities that you saw. So I can see this through my calendar. I can also see these through my task list if I want to work on a task basis. Company libraries are a repository for storing any documents that we want across various aspects of our company. And the final area that I haven't really covered yet is the idea of dashboards, business information reporting. Show you some of the dashboards. I've got two dashboards really set up on this database. I've got one that's set up to show you what's happening with the deliverables. You'll notice I had 5 deliverables associated with this advisor. Across those deliverables, some of them are doing more than one thing. So if I split it by category, you'll notice I've got 7 sorts of activities going on there, and then I've got activities by product over here as an example. Another example of a dashboard is one where we're actually looking more at client information. What sort of business sector is a client in? What sessions, advisory sessions, are we doing with customers? How many sessions have we sold? And so on and so forth. What's the turnover of our client base? And so on. These are just examples. Again, with the Maximizer dashboards, You don't need an IT guy to create these. You can create all these yourself. As long as you put the data in the database, then you can actually work with it. As well as the dashboards, we can run some reporting. So we've got a bunch of standard reports, things like note reports, which give us the history, activity reports. Then we've got something called Excel reports, where you can take data from the Maximizer database and automatically extract it into an Excel spreadsheet with some pivot tables and other ways of manipulating the data. Just to recap this section here again, where we have the quick access, if I click on this button here, I've got a search that's been pre-configured linked to this button. This allows me to find the various deliverables that are going on. This button here allows me to see the various contacts. If I want to do some profiling, when I've got a bit of data in my database, you can set up a search like this through the quick access. What industrial sector are we looking for? Are we looking for high growth companies? Let's say no, we're looking for anyone. At the moment I said Berkshire, let's leave that as an example. So we're looking for all the companies that are in IT that are based in Berkshire, for example. So we've got 3 companies in Berkshire, and there we go. Pretty straightforward stuff. So you can build up these searches. They're called catalog searches, and then you can use them either to create these quick access buttons here, or you can actually use those catalog searches to drive your various dashboards and so on. That's a very, very quick overview of the client, of the Maximizer client and the product. Again, there's quite a lot in here, as you've seen. I've covered it very, very quickly today. If you want a more in-depth view, just give us a call and we can go through it with you on a one-to-one basis. I'll just shut this down for now, move back to my PowerPoint, because there's a couple of final things just to wrap things up. In terms of the Maximizer product, one of the main areas that may be of interest is our deployment model. Because of the way our product's developed, we do have a version that sits in our data center, which is either based in the UK or Canada, depending on your preference. We have, as well as that, we have the capability for you to have your own dedicated server either in our data center or a data center of your choice. We also still have the possibility for you to have the product that I've shown you today installed on your own service in your own office if you have the right sort of technology available. As you grow the business and do more work and take on more advisors in the business and so on, what it's actually possible to do is to actually move between these various different deployment methods. In terms of accessing the data, you can use a standard web browser like I've shown you today. That could be Internet Explorer, or it could be Chrome or Firefox. If you have a mobile device or tablet, you can use the browser on that device, and we have a specific screen layout for that which works specifically for those devices. We also potentially have the capability to have a degree of offline through a forms-based application. I'm not going to cover these final slides in too much detail. If you want to read through this a little bit more and get a hold of the presentation, just make contact with us and we'll send that through. I would say, why would you choose Maximizer? Well, I've shown you the product and how it works, but really the main reason for choosing us above any other CRM provider is pretty much our approach. As a business advisor or coach, you will appreciate the sort of consultative approach that you will generally take with your clients. We believe in Maximizer we do a similar sort of thing. We spend a lot of time to understand your business and make sure really that the sort of business problems and objectives that you're trying to cover using CRM, we make sure that we cover those, and we work very much in partnership with you to make sure that that happens. In terms of customer retention, we have a 94% plus, I think it's 95% actually for 2015, We have a large number of customers that have been with us for a significant period of time. We have a very high customer retention ratio compared to other CRM vendors. We give a very high return on investment and value for money with our product. It's not just me saying that, the analysts will back that up as well if you look at some of the various things out there. In terms of the Maximizer product, the sort of things that I showed you, it's easy to use, it's efficient, it's flexible, it can handle large amounts of data. It really can boost your productivity and your activity, giving you more time with your customers. It's pretty much out of the box. What I've shown you today didn't have any real changes to the product at all. I put a bit of data in there, set up a few fields, but if you wanted to start with that database, we can give you that database to start off with. Very straightforward, easy for you to configure it, easy for you to add fields with our help. Very, very efficient product, and it can be used across smaller companies. Out of the box you can use it, or you can, as you saw with some of the clients I mentioned earlier on, you can expand the solution to do more and more things. You can use our data center I've mentioned before, or you can use your on-premise solution or your own data center. That's all I want to cover today. If you do want the presentation, or you want to have a one-to-one demonstration of what I've shown you today in a bit more detail, please contact us at info@maximizer.co.uk, or you can give us a call, UK number, which is +44 1344 766 900. Now we'll be happy to take your call and talk through the solution and give you a full a more complete demonstration of what we've got. Thank you for your time today, and best of luck with the CRM project as you move forward.